All right, good morning and welcome to our channel. Today, we're going to be discussing the congressional review of PHAs and the administration's absolute determination at this point to make it a priority that both the House and subcommittee, as well as Congress, will now enforce rules on top of PHAs to kind of stave off billions of dollars in fraud and mismanagement. And so, let me link you guys up in the live chat. I'll do this as well when the video is over and in standard comments, and you can take a look. There's plenty out there already written on the market. This is from a U.S. senator. But what I'd like to do is I want to go over the bullet points of this case. So I ask you guys to hear me out. But before we do that, my few introductions. My name is Jay. I'm the owner of Section8Consulting.com, widely known as one of the private consultants in America. I worked at the federal for about 26 years. And still to this day, I work with a lot of clients in terms of trying to deal with issues related to landlords and housing authorities and many of the policies and procedures that are out there related to housing and Section 8. So let's go over this oversight list, and I think you guys will be quite pleased. And I want you to know also the U.S. government is now rolling out AI. Now, we discussed how that was going to play out, but it appears they weaponized this in the effort to use it against the PHA for investigatory powers to determine where there is fraud and mismanagement. Now, I don't know specifically how this is going to play out in terms of individual cases where people may have an unresolved matter or issue with your local PHA or public housing authority, but I do know that they are actively using AI at this point to make determinations of misconduct, fraud, and other things involving nearly all of the 4,300 housing authorities in America. So that's good news for many of you that utilize the system that have not received fair treatment or otherwise have had violations of your rights under Code of Federal Regulation or federal law. So with the oversight expansion, I'm going to go over that real quick. HUD's recently announced implementation and several initiatives aimed at increasing oversight of the public housing authorities and PHAs. This means Section 8. So the key developments at this point is HUD reports more than 5 billion in improper potential payments, and as of I think that was 2025, they've not done a full review for 2026 yet. So the concerning programs are going to be the Housing Choice Voucher, Project-Based Rental Assistance, or PBRA, as well as public housing and payment processes. So HUD states it plans to strengthen financial controls and improve how PHAs administer federal housing funds. So this is a direct attack on your local PHAs. Part of the bigger problem we've always suggested is waste and financial abuse of a system where we have 40 billion going in and then watching much of that evaporate through poor management and mismanagement at the PHA or public housing authority level. Number two, increased monitoring of public housing authority. HUD announced it will implement additional monitoring to design and improve financial accountability, detect improper payments, identify fraud and abuse, strengthen documentation requirements, and increase transparency in the program administration. So you could read this kind of as a bullet point in terms of this is really just about the public housing authorities and the extravagant waste of taxpayer dollars. Number three, for more audits and performance reviews, housing authorities may experience more frequent financial reviews, additional compliance audits, increased reporting requirements, expanded review of eligibility and determinations, and closer examination of administrative processes that often fail. And that's where the money, usually jumps out the window and disappears. The HUD's Office for Inspector General, which is the police for HUD, in 2026 are doing a work plan which also highlights increased audit attention on financial management, eligibility verification, housing inspections, and internal controls at the PHA. So this really does spell out as we don't believe anything that the housing authority is doing, and we're going to challenge every process within each individual housing authority to assure that the records actually match reality and meet the requirements of the federal law. We would need to do this if the housing authorities operated as they should, but it seems that's not the case. Why else will we need all these new requirements and both Congress and the House to step in to stop the fraud and leaking? Congress oversight is increasing, so Congress has increased the focus on PHA operations. financial mismanagement, fraud investigations, poor housing conditions, internal control failures, and accountability for federal funds. That's virtually everything. You could almost say it's a business that does no longer operate properly and has managed to steal its own funds and antiquate virtually every process there. And so that's insufferably what many people face when they try to use this federal system for housing. So, what this could mean for Section 8 participants, voucher holders may notice more requests for documentation, additional income verification, closer review of annual recertifications, increased scrutiny of household composition, faster connection of administrative errors, and more enforcement of existing HUD rules. Uh, Moving from there, what this is going to mean for the housing authorities is improved internal financial controls, enhanced record keeping, strength, quality, and assurance procedures, increased staffing, training, and responding more quickly to HUD findings. Correct deficiencies identified during these audits. And as I had mentioned earlier, it was the administration's absolute goal to address this. I just could have never imagined that both the House as well as Congress and Oversight Committee would be directly involved and make this their absolute focus as the end of this presidential term comes in the next couple of years. So you can see that it appears that the president has not decided to vacate the building on processes related to federal housing, but in fact has amped up the game. And if the housing authority, and I warned people last year that there was a great possibility that housing authorities were the last domino to fall, and it looks like they've addressed every part of the system uh, with respect to virtually every type of housing, but there was not a lot of controls put in place for housing authorities. And well, the hammer's falling now. Once you get Congress and House involved, and that's it. So, and they're actually amplifying this game with AI or AGI, and it's basically able to scan in records and determine ongoing frauds and misuse, abuse, and mismanagement of programs. So, we may find that there may be a slew of federal indictments, other people's arrested, housing authorities put in insolvency, receivership, and even shut down. Many more catching the old prison bus down to what we call quaintly a Section 9. That'd be two hots and a cot and a free pair of Sally's flip flops. Because if you continue to operate your housing authority like a syndicate, this administration will put you in federal prison for it. Okay. The days of stealing, pillaging, and attempting to treat people ruthlessly through the program, prejudicial behaviors and other things determined to give your own family gifts and vouchers while you don't serve your local community is going to result in your arrest. Okay. And AI will expeditiously and without virtually any consideration find out what's going on in this housing authority. It is able to trail through a ton of paperwork. So consider this your final notice. If you've already, as a PHA, engaged in fraud and mismanagement by your own behaviors, then I can assure you your timeline is very, very short. I recommend a plane ticket to North Korea because, in the end, you will be held accountable. And I can tell you that the president's not going to take prisoners on this. I mean, he will. You'll receive your own form of housing, and it will be three hots and a cot in a federal prison. And you will not receive a key with to the your new unit. It'll be a nice little cell. This is going on so long, and I'm very pleased. I'm actually very pleased that AI is involved because this will expedite this process a thousandfold as they're able to run through housing authorities and their paperwork and digital paperwork at lightning speed, identify the frauds and actors that have violated people's rights and so on, and do so. It also works in a counterbalance. When you implement this in full review and with the checks and balances, it also means those that have engaged in the system receive housing and vouchers as a fraud, lied about income and everything else on the books. It means that you're going to find a fast ticket yourself to the local jail, okay, for defrauding the U.S. government taxpayers. So it's a sword with a dual edge. So everybody's on notice at this point. With consideration to AI and how quickly this is being rolled out, I could have warned you. It's almost at a point now where the current AIs are able to run through digital fraud at lightning paces, and it will only escalate. I thought it would be 2030 before we had a full rollout with this, but it appears that at the current pace it's running, it may be by the end of the year. That's how quickly I'm watching a lot of housing authorities go into receivership and people are getting charged. I mean, it's moving at a phenomenal pace, and I think a lot of that's to the credit of AI, which doesn't have any skin in the game. It doesn't care. It doesn't earn a paycheck. It doesn't care who you are, where you come from, none of that. It only understands factually what federal law is. And so I think that there's going to be a high level of ejection in terms of voucher holders committing fraud, generational voucher holders, and other scams, as well as PHAs uh, engaged in active fraud. And so these are going to be turbulent times as we roll into 27 and 28 because they're going to amp this up. And as the administration has mentioned, it appears we're done making war out there. So the entire focus will be, as an end game, your local housing authority. They're going to get you straightened out. So I'm going to move on to comments, and then I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the video. And I want to make a few personal announcements for those that wish to stay here. In addition, I'm giving away 5 free memberships. If you're a regular visitor channel and you want to benefit from a membership that doesn't cost you one copper penny, then do so. All I ask is that you're somebody that's a reoccurring visitor. Don't just grab things because they're free. I know that's tempting and hyperinflated days to just get something free, but it's not going to be useful to you unless you want to visit often. Okay. So first up, let's do these free memberships for those. Remember, if you're watching on a TV, computer, or using your phone, I'm going to count down to about 3. And when I say 3, it's going to post in the live chat. You're going to have to tap with your finger or use your mouse, but whoever's fastest that taps on this will receive those memberships. Okay. So let's do that now. Okay, free memberships. And I'm doing the first 5 today, and I'm going to do the next 5 for 4th of July. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm sending now, and it's thinking about it. It's still thinking, and it's now posted. So let's see who gets these free memberships. Looks like up sold out. Okay, that was fast. Okay, so hope you guys enjoy and benefit from those memberships. So let me roll back in the comments real quick for you guys. Let's see. Hillbilly Herman says, I might I might have one of the very few good housing authorities in my area. My best friend, for 47 years younger sister passed, recently 52. She worked there for many years and offered and paid for $500. Well, there are plenty of housing authorities in America that operate perfectly fine. They operate both with ethic and good moral, but there are many more that don't. The problem is we've reached a breaking point with this. A lot of people don't realize this. Your local housing authority is not the federal government. It is not a federal agency. It is simply a city-owned or privately owned building with people. That's why we really need to remove the word authority out of the name, okay? Because they are not an authority. They are simply diplomats that simply qualify people using federal dollars. Your local housing authority has no authority whatsoever. And so I think the Congress and the House want to set that record and standard correct. Having employees there, and the housing authority has a higher turnover than even McDonald's. I mean, most caseworkers don't even make it 90 days before they quit. Most of them because they have a moral or ethical imposition. In other words, they see what's going on and don't want to be part of that game. And so we've seen roughly 100 or more cases in the last 2 years where housing authorities and their employees have used company credit cards and other things and stole every nickel in the building to the point of insolvency. Many more great examples. New York Housing Authority, more than 90 indicted and dragged out of a building by 3 or 4 federal agencies. City of Los Angeles just got hit, and same thing happening out there. Many more have been caught up in fraud and different things, and the government up to this point has been unable to catch it till years later. So with the implementation of AI, it's becoming reactive almost as quick as it happens. And not only that, but it's also catching all the frauds that get in this in housing that are lying about a lot of things. It was hard to do oversight of thousands, tens of thousands of applications. So with the implementation of AI and AGI, they're able to roll through everything and they're able to connect with both federal and state agencies. So when you flat out lie about being low income, assets and income and other thing, they're able to find out now as we get into the future in real time. And so we're going to see a balance on both sides of the market, so we can better utilize these funds for housing for seniors and disabled, not for people that simply don't have a desire or will to work or don't want to get out there and do something. So, and I think that's a further uh, situation where we've already seen the U.S. government is stepping in and they're wanting to do work requirements and time limits. That's being rolled out very soon. We're up for congressional vote on that very soon, and so I think that there's a lot of changes, and I think the biggest changes that have probably or have ever had have happened or will happen will likely be during this administration, and they're amping this up, and the heat is hot. So moving on from there, Muskogee Land watching. Good morning. Loretta, good morning, everybody. Cutie Pie, thank you for coming back. Lori Clinton, thanks for being a regular member. Cherry Man, good morning, Jay. Good morning to you. Muskogee Land, the AI hammer. It is a hammer. Like I said, the AI doesn't have any skin in the game. It has no reason to lie, cheat, steal, or anything. It simply identifies mismanagement, fraud, and improper use of federal funds of the program, and then it puts people out. You know, it it'll put you out. And so I feel that even another big segment of housing authorities are going to be closing down shop, because if you can't operate properly, the U.S. government will take over your housing authority. They will put you in a receivership, and you will lose control of all assets. And everybody in the building that wasn't honest will be terminated. Okay, not to mention indictments. So it's a warning. It's a very serious warning as this escalates, and we're going to see a whole lot more for 2027. Because one thing I've learned very quickly with this administration is once they implement the discussion of this, then they get involved in actually rolling it out, which they have now. Then there's always the accountability part. And that means that the administration will double back and let most Americans know exactly. They will identify the people they've actually caught in the housing authority or the voucher holders that have committed the fraud, and they'll put out the real numbers as these people are carried off to federal prison and courts. So moving on from there, Margarita Harris. Good morning, Jay. Good morning to you. Karen Knows. Good morning to you. Hillbilly Hermit. By the way, big shout out to the Geneva Housing Authority in Geneva, New York. All right. So we got a shout out. Karen Knows. Good morning, everybody. Lori Clinton. How is the adoption going? So if you're asking in respect to the rescue cat, I have not been able to catch her yet. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, my office has gotten involved in trying to rescue probably a 14 to 20-year-old senior cat at a local burger shop. However, she remains elusive, so I'm working very hard to try to catch her. I take 2 trips a day, and I've not found her yet. So hopefully, she's still out there breathing. Muskogee Land, I still can't believe the Muskogee Housing Authority tried to extort money out of me for $300. That's not an uncommon story, actually. My office deals with a lot of cases, okay? Though I can't disclose this, but there are at least three of you in my chat right now my office is working with to restore some form of sanity in terms of dealing with housing authorities that have actively engaged in fraud, mismanagement, and otherwise trying to destroy my clients. So I can tell you that it's a bittersweet topic for this year. Um, let's see. Looks like Tangus Simpson. I have a question. We'll ask away, my friend. Muskogee Land. I have no idea what will happen to the Heights Tower. State of Oklahoma takes it over, private company. It'll likely go into receivership, and then, of course, the U.S. government may determine who will be the person presiding over that receivership. If it's in the jurisdiction of Nana McKay, then that may become one of their properties. Let's see who else we got here. Goodness, there's a lot of comments this morning, guys. Loretta, good morning. Lynette, I would like membership free. You're a little bit late. Try us again on 4th of July. We'll announce some more memberships. Remember, these memberships we're giving out in this channel, once I post them, then any person can click on them. There's no way to just create a reservation for free stuff. Okay. So join us for 4th of July and you got another chance. Citrine Ethereal, congratulations. Well, thank you and I love your name, by the way. Loretta, just joking. Don't FR. Loretta, let's see. Michael, thank you for caring. Guys, I care more than you can imagine. It matters to me what happens to people. Most of the people that participate in this program are honest. You know, And for people to be victimized by local housing authorities that don't care whether you live or breathe matters to me. It always has. And so I'm taking a very active role, even through my company, to defend people, when it's possible to do so, and if there are merits to the case. Not every case is workable. If you'd like to find out more about me or my company, you can go to www.section8consulting.com. You can also find our information in the description as well as the comments section. Okay. Rob, good morning to you. Peter Thompson, good morning, Jay. I wanted to talk about the recent discussions about the government's attempt to institutionalize people with disabilities. Do you see this getting passed? I don't. I'm gonna tell you why I don't really see that happening. When you deal with a contentious subject matter that would affect both party lines, both Republicans and Democrats, and even third parties, I can tell you that likely that won't be approved. Okay, there'll be some version of it, but it'll be watered down. Jacqueline, good morning. It's good to see you. YouTube 1970. Good morning, Jay and cats. Well, thank you very much. Though I don't have any of my personal cats in the video, they should be returning after summer's over because during the hot months, the cats don't tend to invade my videos as much. Hey, Billy Hermit. More than 10 people from. Okay, so we went over that one. Alicia Nietzsche is always in chaos. Oh, I know. They just took the whole half the office and stuck them in the jail over there earlier this year. That was something to see. 4 or 5 federal agencies show up in Nietzsche's building, and 90 people walked out in handcuffs, many of which were indicted. And so the days of operating housing authority and stealing billions of dollars while treating people badly are coming to an end. And AI is escalating this at a rapid pace. Though most of you don't feel the effect, it's going to be really felt by 2030 because I estimate AI would roll out in 2030. Well, it appears at the grand pace it's going now, it should be fully rolled out probably by the end of the year. And so as they're able to teach the AI better what's going on and the rules at the federal level, we're going to find that there are going to be greater and faster consequences to both sides of the party, including the housing authority and those that commit fraud. And I think that by the time the administration ends and there's a new president, that it will be full scale at that point. And I don't think it's undeniable that nobody's going to want to roll that back. Anytime we can expedite process to keep it honest, it's a good thing. Now we've got something that simply doesn't require payment to work, and it can't be bribed. It's an AI. Patrick Carter, I'm finding that portability aspects of moving from the state is a big issue. It has been a very serious issue for this year. Portability, taking your voucher or other subsidy and moving it from where you currently are to a different county or state this year has been extraordinarily difficult, and it's even further compounded by summertime, where we're in peak season and people like to move the most. But the main factor is many housing authorities have an absolute right to deny portability and have been implementing that this year due to lack of funding. They simply cannot allow the last few dollars they have to walk out of town. So they ended up having to pay for somebody's voucher while they live in a different state. So it seems that this year portability for virtually all people is down like 70, 80%. Karen knows, thank you for all the emojis. Margarita Harris, Jay, is Florida effective? Well, I can tell you, we're going to talk about effective states, man. My hit list has never changed over the years. Even the 26 years working federal level and consulting both companies and clients, I can tell you that New York, California, Florida, and Maryland are still on the hit list. Okay. There are many more. Okay. Let's just be clear. But if I had to create a top 4 list, that those would be the places, in my opinion, where this goes the worst and it has some of the worst actions going on. There's more out there. Okay. But these are the primary focuses. Um, Mr. and Mrs. Moore says, what are some of the immediate changes to Section 8 recipients can expect? Well, there's so many that, to be frank with you, this video would carry on for an hour if I suggested that. So I'm going to suggest taking a look at some of our previous videos because I've covered at least 10 phenomenal changes. Many of you guys ask me, well, Jay, why make a video about one subject matter and then it changes? Well, unlike any previous administration, unlike any other president, this president has moved through so much of changing the system that what may be good advice today, as I posted in the video, can change rapidly within days. And so I always tell people to characterize these videos as advice in real time, because things change so rapidly. Even I have to read the news every morning now. Previous administrations, I gave people maybe an update every 2 weeks to a month. Here, it's imperative to keep on this virtually every single day, because major things happen. Look, I wasn't even aware of these changes that I'm talking about today till today. Okay, there's so much happening so fast that even the contacts we have within HUD and other federal agencies, they're not even able to get it to me quick enough, And so it's a game, it's a gambit, to see who can publish first. Lori Clinton Jay tried to apply for the home ownership, was told there's no funding. That's quite possibly is true. But I think for many of you that want to participate or are already participating in federal programs, Section 8 subsidies, and other things like low income housing, I think that 2027 is going to present some new opportunities. The reason I believe that is because we've already carried through some of the biggest policy changes. And the last on the hit list was housing authorities. And so they put a lot of thought into this. How do we stop the leaking of billions of dollars? And so the administration started from the small side through applicants and all the immigration issues, and they've been working. But in the background, I knew exactly what was going on. The administration was building a very strong case to roll out AI, specifically into into housing authorities, to make determinations of misuse of federal funds and all the other funky stuff that goes on inside these housing authorities. Now they've got something they can work with, and they're going to refine this for next year, which means the focus will no longer really be about voucher holders and funding. It'll be about stopping the leak within housing authorities. So it'll be the government's attention will be their focus will be extremely on where the money goes when it gets to the housing authority. So that also means it's going to be good news for many of you, because as they further this, they're probably going to force most housing authorities to adopt AI, which means materially the old shitty caseworker you've had to deal with an attitude can't get answers. A lot of this will be moving into AI and AGI. And so the days of dealing with nasty housing authorities and people with attitudes is going to likely change. And you'll be dealing with AGI and AI. There will be some staffing, but it's, in my opinion, the end of the generation probably for housing authorities as they make a full implementation, because there won't be any purpose in owning a housing authority when the US government simply can have AI do 1,000 times the work of probably 100 housing authorities. And so it would be moot at that point to see something commit so much fraud and mismanagement. What would be the point in even having a housing authority? This could all be resolved at the federal level. So, but I know they're not going to want to do this at the federal level. So it would always remain a local market issue with the housing authority. But I think by large, we're not going to see the continuation of caseworkers and all that. I think all that will be vanishing as we get further into future. And I think our dealings at that point, for those of you that want to participate in that program, will be strictly with getting answers from AI, which is elimination of my job, which is good. That means that you're finally able to get what you need, and you're able to do so fairly and justly. All right, I'm going to ask you more questions. I'm going to wrap this up. So we've had a really good video. Again, this is to help you guys open your mind to the possibility of changes to verify. And I'm going to put up that link again to go out there and take a look in the news, take a look at HUD.gov, and take a look at Congress.gov, and look what they're some of the changes and things they're talking about. And the last thing I'm going to mention before I go is, again, my name is Jay. I'm the owner of Consulting.com. If you've had a problem with a housing authority or a landlord and you feel there's been misconduct, improper treatment, or you got other problems, it may be worth considering reaching out to my office. Though I am not free, I'm relatively inexpensive, and I do advise clients, okay? But I should be considered as a last option when you've explored all other options and you still cannot resolve your problem, okay? Only then should you reach out to me. I should not be a first option, to be clear. So I'm actively advocating against contacting my office unless you've tried everything, okay? And that means you try to reach out to HUD, you try to reach out to your PHA, and no other way have you been able to resolve that matter? And sadly, I already know for most of you that's probably the case already, but at least there's a chance. So that being said, guys, I thank you all for joining me. Please do join us for 4th of July. I like to go over some 4th of July information, a couple free memberships again that day. And, of course, we want to honor our independence as a country. We owe our freedom to this country. And I believe this year makes 250 years. And I want to go over that in the video because I think we need to re educate our young adults and kids today. This is not about sparklers and 4th of July. It's about independence and understanding our history as a country. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that in the next video for those who care to hear it. The only way you wouldn't want to hear it is unless you're communist or something, and not to offend anybody. But look, we are Americans. We need to remember our history. Okay. All right, guys. I've enjoyed talking with you. We'll see you again. I believe today is Thursday. So we will see you again Saturday. All right. Bye for now.